Welcome to the Holy Fool podcast. Holy Fool is a nonprofit organization based in Denver, Colorado, devoted to supporting working musicians, especially those young and emerging musicians who are not yet financially self-sufficient. We have a community of artists and patrons devoted to supporting each other and making sure that those songs that need to get written. Today, I'm really excited because we have Bob and Jayne from the Undertow Music Collective with us. Bob and Jayne, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having us over.
I've been fans of you guys for a long time. I first heard about Undertow through Dave Bazan and Page of the Lion. I've been to a number of Bazan house shows. And then I was just looking at your roster of artists that you've worked with directly in the last few years, and it's quite a list of bands and songwriters that I like. There's, just to name a few, Bad Bad Hats, of course, Dave Bazan, Jen Wassner, Flock of Dimes, Will Johnson, this new Magnolia and Johnson Electric Co., Maria Taylor, Chris Staples you all have worked with, Craig Finn, Damian Guardo, Kevin Devine, and S. Carey. And that's just to name a few of the artists that you guys have worked with in a management capacity or helped book shows for. So how would you describe the work that you do at Undertow?
It's the very first thing that comes to mind is DIY. We are a very DIY company. That's our ethos. Undertow is, I like to think of breaking it down into three parts. You know, we have the OG idea concept that Bob started, which was project management, artist management, legacy management. And then a part of that came merchandise handling, shipping, receiving for those clients. And then the house shows came and was the third addition to the umbrella, under the Undertow umbrella, so to speak.
All of those things born out of pure desperation. I always had friends that were in bands who needed help, and we were organized. So we show up and we're organized. So it was a nice little fit. So
that's a gift.
Yeah.
Artists, not the most organized people in the world. So
yeah. I know a couple that are pretty good, but most of them need a little help. So,
they've all got their flair.
Yeah. That's right.
Many gifts, right? Tell me a little bit about your story of getting into a music scene and sort of identifying, man, I want to be someone who's helpful in those spaces.
My dad was in bands when I was a kid. And he was I grew up in Nashville, and he was sort of the C-list session guy, so if there was, hey, that guy's not available, all right, let's call this guy. He was sort of the third tier, third stringer guy. So always sort of barely making a living at it. And then, but as I got older, I just, somehow I was always friends with people in bands. One of my best friends, Ken Coomer, is a drummer, and he was in the band Uncle Tupelo. And so I worked at a drum shop. And so he would just come there and hang out when he was off tour. And one day he came in and was like, hey, we're looking for a tour manager. I'm like, I bet I could do that. And then a month later, I'm driving around in a van with a bunch of guys. And that's it was a total pure accident for me. I have always been sort of an organizer. As a kid, my room was clean. I'm a little bit of that guy. So I just kind of fell into it by accident, and it was okay. I'm an okay hang. I'm mostly sober, and I don't crash vans very often. And I show up on time for stuff. So yeah, it was just sort of a default job sort of for me. How'd you get going?
Yeah. Well, I ended up here pretty much straight out of university. I had to have an internship. This was my internship. And it was a really good fit. It felt like, I understood, the tasks, and it kind of broke it down. I wanted to go into music business because I couldn't perform. I wasn't like good enough for music theory and all that.
Right.
And education, that seems like, blessed teachers, but I'm not one of them. So it was like, I'm going to go into the music business. And I thought management, because I too was organized, and I was always the one like setting up the chairs in choir or band or whatever. I was in charge of the phone tree, in high school or whatnot. So when I took the management internship here, it was just like, that was my main focus, was management over all the other things. I was like, well, this will come naturally. And then seeing the behind the scenes process, and just kind of like really breaks it down. And it's just like, oh, I can do this, and I love maps. And so I love looking at maps, like routing tours and stuff like that. Like I have a really strong like geography thing going on.
That's important. You'd be surprised how many people aren't into geography and in bands.
Yes.
kind of shocking, actually.
Yeah, yeah. So it was just kind of like, yeah, I can hang out here, and the vibe of just kind of like grab a bucket and, pitch in is just like if you have a strength that you can apply to the situation, then like speak up, and it's like, but at the same time we're also like always learning here as well, which is exciting for me because I love learning new things, and so things are changing and evolving, like no day is the same.
Yeah.
No problem is the same, even though we see similar issues all the time.
And I should also mention we know Jayne because of Matt Talbot from Hum. He was her instructor at school, and he was sending interns to us every semester. And Jayne was the best intern that he ever sent, so we hired her. So,
That's
and now
amazing.
she's a partner in the company. So yeah,
Jayne, I want to ask about, you said that the work is constantly changing and there's new skills to learn and new problems to solve, right? Can you give an example of stuff that you've had to learn on the fly recently?
I think, I'm always learning about communication. So much of this work is done through the internet or social media or newsletters. And it's always like, what is the most engaging way to say something that can motivate somebody? Because a lot of our stuff is like a call to action, like with the house shows. It's like, how do I convey that, like, we want you to be a part of this process? Because fan relationships are really important in this business. Like, we can't do this without the fans. Communicating with your base, your support base, it's really important to just be clear and direct and let them know that it's like, hey, we're thinking of you, and just so constantly trying to evolve that communication and find those avenues of communication. Social media is kind of a mess right now. I think
You
everybody can
don't say.
complain. Yeah, I think we could all complain about the algorithm. So we're like, for a while there, it was just like we knew what worked in getting the message out about the house shows.
yeah,
And then that changed. And it's like, okay, how do we reach people through this barrier? And you kind of try and find those avenues. And from like a call and response, like Marco Polo, like situation, you eventually figure out like where pockets of people are. And I think everyone's just generally scattered right now. Like,
Mhm.
you're always learning. But that's definitely the biggest thing right now, is learning how to reach people and talking to them in a way that they feel like they're part of this Undertow collective as well,
Mhm.
because we rely on fans,
yeah,
to help us do these things, and we're so grateful for them.
yeah. We're in business with fans, I think, more than anybody. I mean, our artists, of course, but I think we try to facilitate a thing where our artists have direct connections with the fans. We kind of manage fan bases
Mhm.
in addition to the artists. And I don't know if a lot of management people see it that way. I know a couple of managers who just refuse to interact with fans. It's such a weird, like, oh wait, that's why we're here, man. And it's a weird one when I see that mentality where people don't want to interact with fans or service the fan base in a way that's meaningful and direct. They'll farm out everything, to third parties, and it's
Mhm.
weird.
I think that was what was so refreshing about the house shows that I've been to that you all have organized, is that it felt so unique to have a space where because normally I mean, as a culture, we sort of make two alternative mistakes about people who make art. One is that they're high on a pedestal, high on a stage. They're somebody that's totally different from us, and we worship at the altar of the artist, right? Or the other mistake that we make is that the main character at a concert is the concert goer, and the artist just sort of lives to make an interesting background music for my sort of Instagrammable life as I'm at a concert, right? And what's so beautiful about a house show is that it sort of busts both those paradigms. The music is centered and the artist is centered in a way that actually humanizes them, and actually you're moving closer. There's not like the actual barrier that's keeping you away from it. And that feels very much a part of the ethos that I hear you guys talk about. I would be interested if you had some thoughts on what's so special about the house show.
For me, the first few times I heard an artist I really cared about singing without a PA, it kind of wrecked me. I was like, oh, I've never heard, you don't hear a lot of people singing without microphones. There was a million years ago, I saw Elvis Costello and the PA messed up and he sang a couple songs without the PA. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, I'm hearing his voice straight into my ear without a microphone or a PA. And I think that's a special part of it. And just being around 40 or 50 people who love the same artist as you in a room. I don't think you can do that in a bigger venue or with a giant production and songs. That's just a really cool way to hear songs, I think.
Yeah. I had never seen a house show before starting to work at Undertow and booking these. So I kind of like I came in through the back door, right? Like I started working on them before I got to experience them. But what is so cool is that the barriers are gone. It's very raw. It's very real. There's a lot of nervous energy in the room. Like, no show is the same. So like everyone's just kind of like a little bit more
Right.
sitting up's a little bit straighter and
Yeah.
a little bit like, oh, where is the bathroom?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like scoping out the space. But I think there is something really cool because it's a smaller capacity than like a big venue. And so it's like 40 big fans in the same space who maybe have like a similar relationship with a certain record or that time frame of their life, if they were all teenagers at that time or whatever, it's like that bond is different and you don't have somebody like yapping in your ear about, or in the
Right.
background where they're just like talking about their thing during your song, it's just like there's that different energy of just like focused on the art, focused on the artist in a way that it just like cuts through all the bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're there for that crazy moment in time. It's like maybe 90 minutes and it's
Yeah.
just like everyone's just like squeezing every minute out of it.
Yeah, and it's cool too. There's no bar. There's you go to a venue and there's a bar. There's probably a TV on somewhere in the room, and there's people catching up. Oh, let's talk about something else besides this amazing show. Um, louder than they should be. So you remove a lot of those distractions, and it's just a person playing songs and a bunch of people absorbing it. It's really kind of a magical thing.
It is. I agree. As soon as y'all were talking about people talking over top of the music, I flashed back to I saw Hiss Golden Messenger, and it's my favorite venue in Denver. It's called the Bluebirds. I saw Page of the Lion play there too, and they mixed the Bluebird fairly quietly, and so there was 3 people right behind me that just would not shut up the whole show.
Yeah, it's
And
infuriating.
It just killed. I normally am not an aggressive person, and I wasn't necessarily aggressive to them, but I did at some point turn around and say like, hey, there's a bar back there. Do you want to, sounds like you want to catch up. Like, do you want to go back there? Because I really want to hear these songs.
I just had a weird experience at a Pedro the Lion show in Chicago last year. They played at Talia Hall, and they did a thing where they put the stage out in the middle of the room. So it was like they pulled everything down, so everybody was just around the stage.
Yeah.
And Dave was playing drums on that tour, and there was a guy standing like 2 guys right behind Dave, like 6 feet from him, talking during the show. And so my reaction was like, oh, I'm just gonna go stand right in front of him. So I just got between them and stood right in front of him and just kind of made myself as wide as I could be to block them. And then I just turned around and looked at him like, yeah, man, I'm watching the show. I mean, and I think it was enough. And they're like, oh shit, this dude got really aggravated, about this, about this thing. And they didn't know that I worked for, for the band or whatever, but it's just like, you just have to make people know it's wrong, like, hey, this is not cool.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll think about it next time or probably not, so.
Oof. Yeah.
It's tough.
So I want to ask, Undertow has been a thing since 1996. And Bob, tell me, you've been with it during that whole time.
Yeah. Me and a friend of mine named Mark Ray, we started Undertow together in 1996 in St. Louis.
Yeah. So that's a heck of a long time to maintain any work in any direction, right? There's this Nietzsche quote where he talks about a long obedience in the same direction. And I want to ask, what has kept you energized and maybe not optimistic, because there's still difficulties, but why do you keep going?
That's a question my wife asked me a lot. I don't know. That's something I talked to my therapist about a while ago. I love music. I love people who make music, and I feel like I feel like I'm in a service position, like I'm public service guy. I want to help these artists. I don't know. I mean, the money's not great, and it's stressful. But sometimes, but when you get the record at the end of the recording cycle, and they're like, "Oh, here's the record," and all this hassle you had to do to get the deadline covered, all this stuff, and you're like, "Wow, this is really amazing," and that's going to be around forever. And I love being part of that. I love helping artists do the thing that they're doing because I feel like that's a service. It's just a plus on society. There's not a lot of jobs you can have where you're a net positive on society. I feel like a lot of jobs are just extracting stuff from the world. I whatever, however corny it sounds, I feel like we're putting stuff back into the world in kind of a positive way. So maybe that, I don't know. I'll have to think about that more because I don't, I started doing this in 1993 and then Undertow started in 96. So it's been 30 plus years and it doesn't feel like that. It just happened. It was a very gradual 20 years, 30 years,
Right.
So, and it's cool. I've worked with a lot of people for a long time. I worked with Will Johnson almost 30 years, Bazan for over 20. There was a band called the Bottle Rockets who I worked with. So it's a lot of the same people, and some that come and go. So that helps.
That's real good. And Jayne, tell me, how long has it been? So you started as an intern and then you're now a partner, right? So how long has it been for you?
It's been 11 years. It'll be 12 in June.
Yeah, that's still a heck of a long
Wild.
time to work on something. How would you answer that question? Why do you keep going?
I think, there's definitely something to what Bob said about being a net positive on society as a whole, like, because it's kind of easy to be bummed out at the state of the world. And I think, I don't know, maybe I never outgrew my adolescent phase of like, why are we doing it this way? There's got to be a better way or something, It's just like, if I was in charge. And, there's something cool about not going into a typical office environment where there's these like very corporate capitalist expectations of you. I mean, maybe in like other versions of the music industry, there's those like markers, but like here it's me and Bob and another person most of the time. So it's like we kind of call the shots. It's something really cool of being a part of something bigger. Like I said, I don't have the chops to create something like a record or an EP or anything like that. But if I can contribute in any way, and feel like, I helped get that across the finish line, that's very rejuvenating and kind of creative by proxy for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It feels like. And two, it's just like it's very easy to get caught up in like a project cycle that's like 8 months of the year. And then it's like you get to the end and you get that final product and you have like a couple months off and you're like, let's do it again.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
It's
you
a
get
little
bit by the
addictive.
bug.
Yeah. And by the way, the other person in the office, her name is Emily. So in case Emily is going to see this, hi. She left early today. She had something going on.
But they're awesome. And yeah, we keep it small and DIY mostly because the music industry is, it doesn't pay a ton. But there's some freedoms that come with that, being your own boss or, kind of like having this infrastructure here to help make people's dreams come true. It kind of feels like a
Yeah.
indie version of Disney World, kind of.
Yeah, a little bit with
It's like the dream factory.
Disney without the budget.
Yeah, that's real good.
I always talk about like, man, if we had, a third of the budget of, whatever big company, I was like, we could do so much cool stuff. And then, we don't. So we have a lot of good ideas that just don't happen sometimes.
So
let's do the Undertow TV show.
let me dig into that. So what are some of the harebrained schemes that you've had over the years?
Bazan and I have been writing a TV show together for 5 years.
Yeah.
That is an incredible, like 3-season show. We have like the whole outline together, but who's got the time to make it happen? And the money is, Orson Welles got to make one good movie and then he was scrambling for money the rest of his life, So just, there's a lot. There's a whole whiteboard over there with ideas that we're just like, oh, geez.
We've been trying real hard to launch a website for the Spotify is Over campaign for a while. And it's it's a lot of work, on top of like the day to day. And when you've got projects and deadlines and, Christmas, we've had, more merch orders lately than usual. If a tour is happening, it seems like every day is kind of just like, damage control. It's like just making sure that the show happens. Yeah.
We are going to do a telethon. I want to do like a Jerry Lewis style Undertow fundraising telethon. So many good ideas that are going to be hilarious. So we're going to do that in the first half of next year, I think.
I love that.
Don't tell anybody. I'm kidding. Yeah. I told that idea to a friend of mine that like a few months later, he forgot that it was my idea. He started telling me he was going to do a telethon. I'm like, hey, what? Hang on a second, man.
I do that to Kate, my wife, sometimes. I'll like retell a story that she told me. And she's like, I was the one that told you that story.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I think my sense is that you work with artists, especially for some of the management and house show and the shows that happen in non-traditional venues. You work with artists that have kind of an established fan base already. They've got an email list, right? Not starting for the first time, but you have been in the business for 30 something years as an institution. So a lot of our listeners are young, emerging bands and artists, folks that are trying to do the rock band thing for the first time. And the world of 1996 and the world of 2025 are a lot of the skill set and the
Yeah.
hustle is the same, right? You still want to build relationships in person. You still want to get as much direct access to somebody's actual email address as you can so that you can have as few barriers between the music maker and the fan as possible, right? So some of those skill sets of like email lists and street teams, it's still the same stuff that folks were doing in the 90s. But what advice, given the context of what you've seen artists and musicians struggle with, but what struggles do you see for younger artists, and what maybe if you had some advice for some younger emerging artists, what would you tell folks?
My first advice is to get the email list going because that is timeless. I mean, it really is. I mean, the email lists are very reliable and they don't ebb and flow the way social media does. The people on your email list are the super fans. And to be able to have direct access to people where you can communicate, here's what's happening. And before it gets to social media, especially if we do a thing with Bazan's email list, is we send out to them the information, like news about shows and ticket links before we put it on social media, at least by a couple of days, as an incentive for people to be on the email list. And I think that helps us a lot. So I would say any young band, know I'm an old dude and it sounds corny, but you got to have an email list, figure out a way to get email addresses from people because social media is fickle and your reach could get turned off overnight if something you post doesn't fit.
Yeah. And in tandem with that, I would say don't rely on just social media, have a website.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of people who it's very normal not to have a website anymore that just loops back to their Instagram or whatever. And it's a great resource. I mean, we can't rely on social media anymore to be like chronological. And you got to be able to like talk about your stuff and
Right.
have just a place where someone can be like, I wonder what they're doing. And they can just figure it out,
Right.
And I think we're going to start seeing more and more of a push that is just like, look, social media isn't the end all be all. We're going to have to like go out and try and search for this information again instead of expecting it to come up in front of us. So having a website, having a mailing list, having that direct access to use your voice because, if you're suppressed or there's censorship or anything like that, like the nature of art should be upsetting.
Right.
So I don't know. However, you need to get that out there without someone telling you what you can do or what you can say.
Another weird bit of advice is work with less people. Like have your music on less platforms. I feel like the music business is maybe this is the only business I've ever been in, so I don't know, but we get a lot of spam from middle men, middle women, middle
Mhm.
companies that want to get between you and your fans. We're going to help you build a fan base. Upload your email list to our platform and we will help you build a fan. And don't do that. I mean, the idea is you want to have as much direct connection with those people as you can, not through platforms. I see these bands like, oh, we're on like, find us here, find us here, find us here, find us here. And then also, it's just a lot of work to maintain all those.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if you're maintaining 5 or 6 or 10 platforms, when are you writing songs? Or when is your manager helping you write a tour? If everybody's busy maintaining platforms that ultimately are data mining schemes that are your information is going to get sold and that platform's going to be useless eventually. That's happened a few times. There was a platform that was around a while ago. It was just basically a data mining scheme. Like, oh, it was like a pre-order platform for album releases and specialized merch, and they went away. And then suddenly all that data is it's spam farm. It's spam seeds, so I don't know, just work with less platforms and direct to fans if you can. I feel like we're in a different music business than most people. I mean, I grew up in Nashville, which is weird because I am not in that music business. And that is a whole separate music business from the other music business in a lot of ways. And we're even in like a third version of the music business, which is not the music business. We're not in the music business. We're in the fan artist business, I guess.
I think one thing with musicians that's hard to, get them to deprogram from themselves too, like maybe spiritually, is like this fear of being missed out on.
Yeah.
I think that's part of like why people have such a hard time giving up Spotify, is because it's like, well, where will people discover me or find me? And I think it's more important to figure out what your values are, one, like what do you want to align with, with your art and a business mindset, and keep it simple, but also like figure out what it is your fans, who you're relating to, right? Like figure out that fan base, and then just be consistent with how you reach them or communicate with them or get them into the fold. Like you don't need all these platforms and middlemen like trying to bridge this gap. Like you are the person, if you're the artist, that's the you're that's why people are here.
Yeah.
They want to connect with you. So fewer bridges the better, I feel like, because I feel like, from like an efficiency standpoint, there's gotta be runoff. Like you gotta be still missing out on people, even if you have like a million platforms.
Mhm.
Like people get overwhelmed on platforms too, users. Like some people really just want to have like two ways to connect, two consistent ways to get
Right.
their news or their information. So figure that
Yeah. If
out.
I want to know what Radiohead's doing, I go to radiohead.com. No, I'm not, I'm going to go to widget.net.org and
Right.
see if they're on that platform, and maybe I
Right.
can get maybe I can get a song for free,
Right.
or behind the scenes photo that nobody's ever seen. Like, just, I want to see tour dates and links to music. And also make good music. Advice, kids, make good music.
As simple as that, Bob.
Yeah, right. Somebody just told me, I had a funny one a couple days ago. Somebody was telling me how you know your band is good is if other bands come to your show.
Yeah.
Like if other bands are at your shows, you're in a good band.
Yeah.
And if the only people at your shows are your friends, keep working at it.
Right.
Right. If it's a lot of other bands, you're probably on the right track.
Yeah, that's I think when I passed the threshold of am I a real musician, whatever that means, into like thinking about myself as like, oh no, I'm a songwriter, I'm in a band, was when people that I respected their work said something with some praise, thoughtful praise. And it wasn't, I'm attending the show to watch your band out of some politeness or some social obligation. It was just like from pure attraction.
Yeah.
And I really love what you guys are saying. It makes me think of, I think we're in an age where we think global domination is possible for any one of us at any moment, right? Like if you rewind in culture, we were more regional. We had regional cultures. We not only had regional dialects, regional sandwiches, we had
Regional music scenes.
regional music scenes. But, Austin didn't feel like Portland, didn't feel like Seattle,
And
did not feel like
Athens.
Denver. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I benefited from that system. I worked for bands that had regional hits. The Bottle Rockets had a big hit in Dallas. And so that helped get Atlanta, and that helped get another, it was like a weird snowball effect.
Mhm.
And that doesn't happen anymore.
Mm-mm.
Music scenes really built indie rock, especially college towns. Champaign used to have a great music scene. Athens, Georgia, Denver.
Bloomington.
Yeah, Bloomington, Indiana. Yeah, it's just, Ohio in general. There was a
Right.
lot of great bands from Ohio.
Right.
Boston was a great, there used to be that thing where like, as soon as you hear about a new band, like, where are they from? Because you want to know what scene they came from.
Yeah.
Minneapolis is a good example. But yeah, that just doesn't happen anymore. I still ask people where the band is from, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The internet kind of leveled that playing field, but also the consolidation of radio really messed it up for a lot of people.
Like you sense the drive for it in like the slow food movement. We can't just exist online all the time. We can't just compete with every single other person in the world that does the same thing that we do. And I think one of the things that just for myself as a musician, we sort of tongue in cheek, my band's A Place for Owls. We call ourselves Denver Emo Band, A Place for Owls. And part of that is intentional because our regional scene and vaguely our genre scene. And the day that I felt like I had made it in music was before that Page of the Lion Bluebird show that you guys were kind enough to guest list us for, because we kept bugging you to open for Bazan.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, somebody in your band helped us out with a recommendation for a body shop.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we were at the body shop that morning getting the van fixed.
Yes.
Thanks to you guys. So thank you again. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's our pleasure. But
yeah,
we ran into Dave Bazan at the pizza place that's right next to the Bluebird. And I introduced myself to him and I'm like, hey, I'm in A Place for Owls. And Dave Bazan said, Denver emo band, A Place for Owls. And I was like,
Yeah.
you know the bit. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for knowing the bit. Yes.
Yeah. He's got an incredible memory. Like he remembers people at shows all the time. I'm like, holy shit. How did you? He's like, well, he's good at context. Like, oh yeah, that guy's a Denver guy.
Yes.
Or this guy's a Seattle guy or whatever.
Yeah.
He's really good at that. And I just stand back and go, I guess. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, for real. But one of the things that we're trying to do in Denver is like, who are our peers here? We have friends online and we have other bands and songwriters that we really gel with that live in different regions. But what's the thing that we can build here? Tell me again where you guys are based.
Champaign.
Yeah, total. What do you feel like the scene in Champaign is like? And do you have friends and partners? Do you work with artists that are local?
So very recently, we just kind of started, we're on a board called Soundbridge that's...
It's a nonprofit. Yeah.
It's a nonprofit. The objective is to try and do similar to what you are, is like local musicians, give them a place where they can experiment and have opportunities to play their jams and kind of build a name for them on the local level. We have been pretty far removed from that. We are very much like in this office for 8 hours a day working on things that are very far away from Champaign-Urbana. Right. But we love this community. Like we love
I love living here.
He's team Champaign, I'm team Urbana. We come together and make it happen.
It's a Super Bowl of amazing cities. Yeah.
It is. It used to have such a great, vibrant scene here, and we know people who helped make that happen. And it's changed over the years, and I kind of get to hear like the stories of how great the music scene used to be. And I don't know. It's kind of motivating for me to be involved with the nonprofit because I never got to experience that. And I think as a music lover and, post-COVID, we all want to get out a little bit and kind of like support our local businesses and these venues that are trying to survive. Because just because I don't go to the local venues doesn't mean I'm not cheering for them. So it's like we need to start trying to find ways to give back to the local scenes or they're going to disappear. And that's not good for indie. That's not good for mid-level musicians or anything. So it's kind of an ecosystem of trying to find how to give back at the local level that's sustainable for us, as well as, doing like the bigger picture stuff, here in the office. So it's a balance.
And there was a weird time here. I mean, there was a time when there were 3 really great venues in Champaign-Urbana. There was Mabel's, Cowboy Monkey, and the High Dive. So you could work your way up to the High Dive, which was, the 500 capacity venue. And every cool band played back in the day. Smashing Pumpkins, Flaming Lips, Nirvana played here. I mean, it was just like all these amazing bands. Like you see some of the flyers, like, holy shit, it's incredible. The bands that our buddy Ward booked to play in Champaign. And then a few years ago, we realized there wasn't a single functional stage in the city of Champaign. Those venues closed or turned into something else. Then the pandemic happened. That didn't help. But then now it's starting to feel like there's a comeback, but there are more DIY venues. There's Space, which is a restaurant during the day and a venue at night. There's Fire Doll. She's like it's like a candle shop, gift shop during the day. And then she has a beautiful performance space that we do house shows in now. And then the Rose Bowl, and that's kind of it. I mean, the Canopy Club is going to be gone. Yeah. And that's mostly jam bands. That's not really my scene. They have electrical problems there, so it's hard to see shows because the bands are always mad because their gear isn't working right.
Right.
Like, there was a Bazan show that went sideways there because the power isn't sufficient for a rock show, and somebody's vintage amp got a brownout and it ruined the transformer, and it was very upsetting for everybody. And then you're yelling at people. That's not how you want a show to end. So yeah, but things are coming back. I feel like, it's just more DIY than it was before, which is nice.
Well, and that's where it's the small groups of committed people that eventually from the grassroots trickle up, right? Yeah.
And I was just in Chapel Hill last weekend to see Will's thing with Magnolia Johnson, and at the Cat's Cradle, which is a venue that's been there for 50 years. They have a small room and a big room.
Love it.
And that music scene there is there because of that venue.
Yes.
That's an iconic venue that's been there the same guy's been running it since 1992.
When I was a college student in Central Virginia, we would drive down to Cat's Cradle just to see. I saw Me Without You there, Damien Guardo.
Yeah.
Like some amazing, like we would go down there like 2 times a semester because the really cool bands would, for whatever reason, hit Cat's Cradle.
Yeah. because they treat bands great, and it's a great town, and the hotel is right next to the venue.
Yeah.
It's super convenient. Yeah, it's really nice.
Well, I think my last question for y'all is, tell me about Spotify. You published a really, really, I think, thoughtful, interesting, and concise piece called Spotify is Over If You Want It. And it, I think, really in, 6 paragraphs tells you up and down what some of not only your concerns, but some of my shared concerns with
Yeah.
Spotify as a company and an institution. So I wanted to just kind of give you free rein to talk about why you think that platform in particular, and then a lot of the sort of the age of streaming that we live in now, how that's not only dangerous to musicians and their livelihoods, but then also supporting unethical and atrocious things, right?
Right. Right. Well, I mean, Spotify is that's the most popular streaming platform. I don't think I don't have any weird like we're going to shut them down, but I don't want to we can help not participate. And I feel like enough artists have their own fans and connections to fans where if they've removed their music, their fans are going to go where the music is. So at least go to places that pay a little better and aren't investing in war machines. That was, I mean, the money with Spotify is one thing, but the ethical part of that guy investing millions of dollars into AI war technology, literally using our money to do bad stuff in the world, which is the opposite of what we're trying to do as people. And also, I've been doing this for a while. I've seen royalty statements over the last, I've got a mental bar graph of those statements, and it's not like there's less people consuming the music. There's more Pedro the Lion fans now than there were 25 years ago. I know that for a fact. I've seen it. I've seen how that's grown.
Mm-hmm.
And for the royalties to have a zero missing at the end
Mm-hmm.
every 6 months,
Yeah.
that's a 10 times decrease in royalties over the last 20 years because of streaming. And I don't think people realize that just moving your stuff over to Apple Music, and there's problems with Apple, there's problems with all of them, would triple the income because they pay almost 3 times as much as Spotify does. Or if you just go to Qobuz or Bandcamp, anything that is more equitable financially is a plus. And also don't support war criminals. Like that part of it is a real bummer.
Right.
To be involved with, I don't want my fractions of pennies, my 15% of fractions of pennies
Mm-hmm.
to be used to blow people up.
Yeah.
That just doesn't feel right to me.
I think too, all of that, absolutely. And it's this larger conversation that we've seen with music and the internet at the same time. Music is this powerful, magical thing that everybody wants, but nobody wants to pay for. Nobody wants to justify paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
And music is used for all sorts of things for all different reasons, good, bad, otherwise. And it's like, how is the artist being compensated for presenting this like bottled magic that you want to use for your motivation, for your ego?
Mm.
So it's the conversation of like, how do we start talking about how music just isn't free,
Right.
and how that it needs reciprocity. I think going back to maybe one of your earlier questions of like what keeps us in the game of being in the music industry for 10, 15, 20 years is its reciprocity. It's like we're participating in this circular economy where we know how much work is being put into this thing and how little money there is to support that work. So, being like, well, this is what I take home every year, and I'm going to make peace with that because I want to be a part of this process of like, doing what I can for this bottled magic to get out there and for other people to experience it in other formats. But like, we need to keep having the conversation of like, how are we participating in our music consumption?
Mm.
Because the rich and powerful people are definitely participating and using artists' work to get their message out there, bad, evil messages that I would say, on the backs of people who are maybe don't have health insurance. That's crazy to me. So it's like, it's so many like layers of conversation to it. Like the ethics are terrible, all of these things. Like there's no perfect solution, but it's like, it's this, how are you consuming music?
Yes.
Are you paying for it?
Yeah.
If you're not paying for it, are you going to shows? Are you buying merch?
Yeah.
And then we could get down a tangent about merch and how that's terrible for the environment. It's like, so it's just like, if you buy the record,
Yeah.
on a digital platform, you're still contributing to that artist's royalty statement.
Yeah.
So just buy the record. It's just
Yeah.
$10.
Yeah.
How are you participating in this circular economy?
I bought Al Green's Greatest Hits when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that was the best $10 I ever spent.
Yes.
I mean, I've gotten way more than $10 worth out of that record.
Yes. And the streaming company can't take it away. There's not ads that show up all of a sudden on that CD. Yeah.
That's another bummer about Spotify. I mean, at least Apple Music. I mean, we're Apple Music in the office because it's convenient and we're all Apple devices and all that. But in the middle of an album and there's an ad on Spot. What the hell is that? Is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, just that part of it is really a bummer too. Just like the art is just interrupted for commerce. I mean, the commerce should happen at the beginning or the end, but not in the middle.
It's hard to tell how much Spotify actually pays out because it's all sort of like they have a payout for every artist in the world, and then your stream is a percentage. And then if your song doesn't get 1,000 or more streams per year, then it's even they just straight don't pay you. But let's say they do pay you on whatever it is, the 0.0003 cents per stream or whatever it actually is. I crunched the numbers. And if you showed up to a merch table, handed a band a $10 bill, and they handed you a compact disc, that would be just as much money as if you went on Spotify and streamed that 10-song album every day, once a day, for 365 days. And it's simpler, it's more direct, kind of in the spirit of talking about, of like as little barriers as possible between artists and fans, but just straight hand a $10 bill at the merch table, and that's more money than listening every day on Spotify, which is crazy to me.
It's incredible, yeah. And I remember that system. I remember like, oh yeah, we sold 1,000 CDs on this tour, and everybody was paying their rent and had money to get some kind of health insurance.
Yes.
Every band that I know right now is one car accident or health scare away from being out of business. It's insane. Yeah, it's that's really a scary spot for a lot of people. It's very stressful. There's a lot of stress in this business.
And it's antithetical to the creative spirit because in order to create something, you have to have a sense of freedom and play. You have to have a sense of lightness enough. Great art can be created from down, depression, desperation. That is totally the case, but we don't have to crucify songwriters in order to get good songs out of them. In fact, the songs my opinion is the songs will be better if somebody's life is stable, they're relationally at peace, they've got health insurance and rent covered. They don't have to become famous or millionaires, but if they can just be stable, then the songs are going to be better.
And then the stability also lets them be better friends and better spouses and better parents.
Yes.
And better citizens and better neighbors. Instability in any job, but especially in this one there's a lot of mental health stuff going on because of instability. I have friends who didn't make it because of instability. I know of a guy that I worked with, ginormous health care bill, and they were going to take his house, and it didn't work out. It's hard to see people you care about struggle, and then people don't want to hear, don't go on Spotify. How dare you make it inconvenient for me to switch over to Apple Music, or buy it from Bandcamp,
Right.
Like, this guy lost his house.
Yeah, come on, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so I am just so grateful for both of your presence. Thank you, Jayne and Bob. Thank you for the work that you do to support artists that are writing songs and making records that are really meaningful and impactful to me personally, that have deepened and blessed me with a quality of life that, I was thinking about it. My last 2 years, album of the year was that Flock of Dimes record this year, and then Santa Cruz by Page of the Lion last year. So
oh, wow.
The best record from the last 2 years for me have been artists that you have supported and worked with. And I love, Jayne, what you were talking about of like, you're kind of being a creative by proxy. You're kind of like, you're supporting the whole thing and the whole person. And that means that you can take some ownership, some healthy ownership over when you get that vinyl record at the end of a project. Like, it's yours in a really beautiful and special way. So I just really appreciate the work that both of you folks are doing. And Emily, who's on your team too. And then everybody, all the volunteers who help become house show hosts and all the stuff that's going on. Before we wrap up, any other thoughts or?
Yeah, thank you for doing what you're doing too. It's if there was an organization like yours in every town, that would be great. I think it's important for artists to have a support system locally, and let's go back to the regional band scenes, and thanks for doing what you're doing too. We don't do a lot of these because we're very Fight Club, like first rule of Undertow, don't talk about Undertow.
Right.
And it's pretty rare for us to do this. So thank you for asking us.
Yeah, no final thoughts. Just thanks for the conversation, letting us talk about this. It's kind of crazy that it's 12 years and 30 something, and
Yeah.
we're still here.
Thanks for liking our bands.
Yeah, I love your bands, legitimately, genuinely.
Yeah, thanks for helping us get our van fixed.
Totally, yeah.
That was a good one. I was like, man, I just put a note on Twitter. Next thing you know, we found a body shop.
That was Nick, who's the guitar player in A Place
Nick,
for Owls, and we love helping that way. We
give
felt
Nick a high five.
Well, yeah.
And the body shop, it was pretty minor. They didn't charge us, but we gave the guy like $100 tip. Like, hey man, and he was like, oh, you'd have to do that. But they were so nice, and we had a nice Mexican food lunch next door. It was great. Worked out really great.
Wonderful. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to sign us off. You have been listening to the Holy Fool podcast. Holy Fool is a nonprofit organization based in Denver, Colorado that works to support artists, songwriters, bands, working musicians in the Denver area. We do that through mutual encouragement. We've got a gear share program. We also give out micro grants to folks to make singles or EPs or whatever. Our guests this week have been Jayne and Bob from the Undertow Music Collective. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, Ben.
If you are interested in the work that we're doing here in Denver, Colorado with Holy Fool, you can check out more at holyfoolco.com. We especially are looking for folks that want to consider becoming patrons of the arts, moving from a consumer mindset into a patron mindset. Most folks do that by giving monthly to Holy Fool. A lot of folks give between $25 and $100 per month. It helps out so much. It enables us to support our community of artists with tangible help and relational help. Thank you so much for watching.